Hi-oh, welcome back to the final whistle then for another stream on the channel. And what is going on at Leicester City? Who knows what is going on at bloody Leicester City? There's been a lot of players speculating with exits, Luke Thomas, Connor Coady, and many more. Ruud van Nistelrooy's future is still very much uncertain. Danny Rowe, Sean Dyche, we're going to touch on it with Rob Tanner. Rob Tanner's going to be answering your questions as well. So if you've got any questions for Rob, he'll try and answer them as best as possible. Guys, always hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. I have left a link in the chat for anyone who's doing it. And yeah, let's chat with Mr. Rob Tanner. Wakey, hello. Hayley, hello. Duncan, evening. Michael, hello. Evening, Clibo. Vardy has been seen not far from Rangers. I don't know if that's going to be his call, but I'll ask Rob anyway. But let's get into it. Rob Tanner, how are we?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, fine. Absolutely. Having a little relax. In June, it's always the really quiet moment in the season is June. Everybody's away on holiday, and then the players are due to be back in a couple of weeks, and then everything sort of kicks off after that.
Rob, let me know about your new article that you brought out for everyone who doesn't know you brought one out.
In The Athletic, yeah. I did a piece about trying to update on what's happening with Rookin. Obviously, he's losing a lot of his backroom team at the moment. Brian Barry Murphy's gone, obviously, to Cardiff. Jella, he's really strong lieutenant. He looks like he's going to Brighton to be their goalkeeping coach. That just leaves, at the moment, Rookin, until a decision's made about him one way or another. And Andy King and Matt Reeves to start pre-season, which starts in less than 2 weeks. So, it's not looking great at this stage. It looks like, Leicester are going to be playing catch-up when, as we've discussed on previous shows, the only positive about being relegated with 5 games to go in the season is that you've got an opportunity to plan early for the next season and get your ducks in a row. And it doesn't look like at the moment Leicester have got those ducks in a row. And the fact that some of his backroom team are leaving would suggest what I've been told previously, that even Rookin thinks that his days are numbered at Leicester, and these lads are looking after themselves and trying to find opportunities elsewhere because there's been no direction from the football club, which is really pretty appalling.
Do you kind of think you could read in between the lines with that, though? With Jella?
We have to. You have to read between. You have to read in between the lines, Jack, because there's no communication, so you don't know. So everybody else then has to guess and surmise, and it doesn't look good for Rookin's position. It really doesn't. But he came in without a backroom team and built it slowly over a number of months. So he could do it again if they decide he is the man that's going to be leading them next season. But all the indicators and common sense would suggest that that something's going on, and that they're waiting for the end of the financial year. I mean, a lot of people speculated when they got relegated he was going to get sacked, and he didn't. Then they speculated that it was the end of the season and they were going to sack him, and they didn't. And then they were going to appoint Russell Martin, which they didn't. So a lot of this is guesswork. But you think having sacked Steve Cooper and all his backroom team, which weren't cheap to recruit in the first place, especially Steve Rhinds, then you've got that on your PSR calculation for this accounting year. To do another manager and well, not now, backroom team, because they all seem to be leaving, but just to do Rude, that would impact on your PSR calculation. And obviously, Leicester know that they're in trouble with PSR. They're facing a Premier League charge, and EFL, we still wait to see what the EFL got in store for them as well. So, it doesn't look great for Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yeah, I can do some highlights after we've finished the show. I can take little snippets of it and put it on social media if you haven't watched it. But Rob, where is it? The question I was going to this one from Wilby. Do you expect him to be sacked? Is it a PSR thing?
Oh, exactly what I just said. Yeah. I think, I mean, obviously we don't know for sure. As I said, this is guesswork based on what you're hearing, what people are saying. And they don't know, because this is the honest truth about Leicester City. There's only 2 people, possibly 3, at some point that will know exactly what the plan is. That'll be Top, John Rookin, and then Susan Whelan. But particularly Top and John Rookin. And John will certainly be saying to Top, well, what do you want to do? And from what I understand, Top's had a family holidays. He's gone away. So, there's been a lot of delay in decision making for next season, which really, they needed to get ahead of the ball of this, but they seem to be playing a little bit of catch up now, and it makes you speculate then. Well, what are they for? And you can only conclude it's something to do with finance, with the PSR. I mean, because no journalist has an in with Top, and certainly not with John, because I know John doesn't really talk to journalists. Occasionally he might, if you bump into him, he might speak to you, but he won't tell you much. So I know that no information is coming out of Top and coming out of John for journalists to divulge to the fans, but you have to conclude logically that it's not looking great for Ruud, and they're looking around for the next manager. And I know we're going to talk about some of those candidates.
We are going to talk about some candidates. There's quite a few names I want to discuss with you. Duncan says about the new CEO. How much do you know about that? Obviously, King Power have had a reshuffle, haven't they, at the top, regarding Top now becoming executive chairman and not CEO. A new CEO's now took over at King Power, hasn't he?
Yeah.
What sort do you look into that?
Well, Top's still the main man. He's still running the show. And I think he's realising he needs some help, because obviously the death of his father has left a massive void, and he's tried to fill that void. And he's honest enough to say, I can't do it all. He's just started a young family. His dad built that business and progressed it whilst having a family, but it wasn't at the level it is now. It's a big ask for him to take over and I think he should do the same at Leicester City. He should appoint people. This is good management. Appoint people to run the show for you. You're the paymaster. You are ultimately the decision maker, but have people doing the nuts and bolts stuff. So they've got a new CEO in King Power. I think they need somebody in Leicester City that's going to do that for Top as well, alongside John and Susan.
Michael says, Rob, who do you get your information from if it's not John Rookin?
I don't speak to John Rookin very often. As I said, if I bump into him, if I see him around, especially away from home, I will have a chat with him, but he doesn't really offer much. So no, I don't get a lot of information. John is not an open book in terms of the media. He's not somebody that's going to pick up the phone from a journalist and tell them chapter and verse. And there is a lot of people in his position at other clubs that do. And that's why you get the chat you do in the media. A lot of leaks, because it's in their favour. If they can control the narrative over trying to sign a manager or a player, they will do so. But Leicester have never really played that game. They're not that sort of club.
Fair enough. And one name that I want to a couple of names that I want to discuss with you, actually. I know we discussed it off air about certain managers who have been linked to the Leicester City post. Yeah. Danny Rowe is one. I know you spoke to me about him. What's the initial thinking regarding Danny Rowe with the people you talk to?
What I do know, what I have been told by other people, is that Top is very much in favour of the style of Enzo Maresca in terms of the playing style.
Yeah.
And Danny Rowe does fit that box. But Leicester City have got themselves in a situation with PSR right now where they're trying to hit the reset button and get back to zero. And now Danny Rowe will be quite expensive to get out of his contract at Sheffield Wednesday. So that is a big decision to make, because, you know, the cost of sacking Rude and then bringing in Danny Rowe and paying the compensation and then bringing in and paying for all his backroom team as well is significant, and it could affect PSR. So they've got to weigh that up. And I know what people are thinking. They'll probably say straight away, well, if he's the right man for the job, then just do it. But they've got to weigh that up as well, because they're already over the line in terms of PSR, and they've annoyed quite a few important people. So they don't want to antagonise them anymore. So watch this space. But I would be surprised if Danny Rowe is the next Leicester City manager. There again, never say never in football. I've learned that lesson. But I think he might be too expensive. I think they might go down the road of another Enzo, another up and coming manager that hasn't had an opportunity before, that might be perfect for them in terms of the progressive football style that Top prefers.
Scott says Danny Rowe. You can see what he's done there. He's completely spelt it wrong. Sheffield Wednesday breached the non-payments to staff. I was talking to a Sheffield Wednesday fan a few weeks back, and they say if they don't pay on by the end of June, is it true about Danny Rowe that he can leave his contract at Sheffield Wednesday?
I don't know anything about Danny Rowe's contract at Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, that is I don't know. That might be a significant development if he's the one they particularly want. But no, I don't know anything about any clauses that might buy. I mean, I'm just speaking to the people I speak to. They think he's going to be expensive to sign to get through. But as I said, if Leicester think he is the one and he does fit the profile of what Top wants, then they will be seeking opportunities. Now, this might be another reason why they're waiting. I mean, such a long delay, because it makes no sense, common sense, to wait this long to make a managerial change if you've already decided you need to make a managerial change, because you're obviously waiting for something, a clause or a deadline to make that move.
Sean Dyche, that we've spoke about this week. What can you sort of tell me about Sean Dyche? Is he one that Top fancies?
No, I think he likes a certain style of football. Yeah. He likes that modern, progressive, possession-based football. Sean isn't renowned for that. Sean is also, he wouldn't come cheap. You know, he's one of the higher earners in that bracket because of his experience at Premier League level. He lives local, and it makes a lot of sense in many ways. You know, he is probably the closest you're going to get to a throwback to Nigel Pearson in terms of how he works and philosophy. But I just don't see it. I just don't see Top wanting to go down that road. But if John Rookin can persuade him, there's an opportunity there. But I can't see that happening. No.
So it looks like Sean Dyche won't be coming to Leicester because he don't play that style of football. Manny says, how does Rob think the reorganisation of King Power will affect LCFC? I seen a report, Rob, in the Bangkok Post. Something about is it duty free with King Power? Is it something to do with the contracts or something over there?
Yes, I mean they've obviously they've got a monopoly on the duty free, and it's a bidding process.
Yeah.
And you have to offer a certain amount of money for the rights to those contracts. And Leicester had to readjust their payment system on there because obviously COVID hit them massively. So you negotiate. We will pay you this much a year of the profits, and I think it was a certain percentage. Off the top of my head, it was a certain percentage of the profits or a certain figure, depending on which is the higher. So obviously, the people that are setting these agendas in Thailand want the best benefit for them. But then they've allowed King Power to then readjust that because obviously COVID hit them massively, and they weren't going to be able to. So they're spreading the cost. They're still paying the same amount, but they're spreading it over a longer period. So it's all part of economics, really. I don't think it's anything significant for Leicester City. I really don't, and I think we've shown that the King Power recovery is doing well, and the world is moving again after the pandemic hit everybody massively, but none more so than Leicester City.
So how do you think the reorganisation would affect Leicester City then going forward?
I don't think it really does. It might free up Top a little bit more to get involved in Leicester City, if anything. But as I said, I think he needs to probably follow that model if he's appointing a CEO to run large parts of the business for him in Thailand. Wouldn't be a bad idea to have somebody else involved, as I've said previously, with John Rookin and Susan Whelan, and give them more help and support to run the show at Leicester City for him. So, he'd still be the ultimate decision maker, but I think it'd be better if he's got a few more generals underneath him that can call some shots and make some decisions.
Fair enough. Can we have some clarity, Rob, on this?
Andrew Neville. Yeah, what a lovely bloke. He really is. And he's been at the club a long, long time.
Yeah.
He is director of football operations. Now, that, basically he's a club secretary. So he does a lot of the admin work that's involved in running a football club, and dealing with the FA and dealing with the various leagues and the bodies and the referees and stuff like that. So, he's a really nice guy.
Talk to me about players. Obviously, you would have seen this week, wouldn't you, with Connor Coady, Luke Thomas being linked away from the club.
Yeah.
Obviously, Stolasic has been very much rejected by Leicester for a bid what Norwich had put in.
Well, Stolasic's going to be the number one next season because we're all expecting Mads to be sold.
Yeah,
he's the biggest asset they've got. Bilal as well, probably. But none of this has happened yet because this is the quiet period of the summer, and it all sorts of accelerates in July and into August, and up until the end of the transfer window, it just suddenly gets really crazy. But I imagine Jacob will be earmarked as the number one for next season.
Which type of players could you see potentially leaving Leicester if they are to? Because last season you'd looked at it with Dewsbury Hall where they had to sell him on to get in line with PSR. Do you think that will sort of be the same case again this summer for Leicester?
They've got to get back to that model. I mean, 2 relegations in 3 years is going to hit them really, really hard financially. So they have to return to selling assets. Obviously, we know Kiernan left at the end of last season, but they need to generate money because at the moment it's not a case of the club not having money; it's they can't spend it under the current regulations, and they've got themselves in a situation with the wage bill that it's grown more than the revenue. So, that's why they're in PSR territory. But as I said, Maddison Manson, he's an asset. Bilal's an asset. But they've probably got some assets that they probably want to move on before them. Players that they think they haven't got a future with, like Vars. Yannick's come out and said he's not pushing for a move. They might stick with Yannick. He's got 2 years left in his contract, but they've got 8 players going into the last year of their contract.
Yeah,
they've got some big decisions to make. And this is what I'm saying about now, because they can't hang around. There's a lot of decisions to be made. I mean, Ricardo Pereira, James Justin, there's a lot of players that are in that bracket now of entering the last year. Luke Thomas is one of them. Now, I think Luke could play a big role next season. I mean, he showed at the end of last season when we were questioning some of the players in terms of their appetite and their commitment. He showed when he come in, he got those. Whatever you think of him in terms of his ability, he's got the right attitude. And that's why I've said to you guys as well, I know it's a bit unpopular with some fans, but Hamza Chowdhury, he's got the right attitude now. He's grown up, he's matured. He could be a leader for this team next season in the Championship. So, but they've got a lot of decisions to make about these players.
One man I want to touch on you with, Bilal El-Khanous. There's been reports about a release clause. Leicester fans are not sure on this one, whether to believe them sort of reports on the Bilal's supposedly release clause. Yeah. What can you tell me on that, Rob, regarding the release clause of Bilal El-Khanous?
Well, can you remember there was some reports about Demarai Gray having a release clause in his contract?
Yeah.
And that wasn't true. And my information at that time was that since the N'Golo Kante departure to Chelsea, where they triggered a release clause, Leicester were very reluctant to put release clauses in contracts. Okay. But then Leicester were a very different club at that time. They were in a position of strength. They haven't been for the last few years. So you're not going to say to a player that you want to sign, you can't have a release clause, because you're not in that same position. So it wouldn't surprise me, and I don't know for sure. It wouldn't surprise me if there is a release clause in some of the contracts of the players that have been signed in the last couple of years, because it's a different animal now. Leicester aren't in that position that they were before, that position of strength in negotiations for players. They want to attract the right players. And if they determined to get that player, they will agree to a release clause. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a release clause in Bilal. But I would imagine it'd be set quite high considering what they spent on him.
Yeah, they've set it as quite low, according to...
I'd be amazed. I would be amazed if that's true, because that makes no logical economic sense.
No.
If you've committed 20 million to sign a player, why would you take less than that?
You won't.
That wouldn't make a lot of sense to me.
Getting £1 million profit, it's not exactly Leicester City's bloody favourable bloody position, is it? If someone said that, it'd be a stupid deal to make, if I'm honest. But can you sort of see him leaving, Rob? I know Arsenal was rumoured to...
Unfortunately, I can. I don't know if he's at Arsenal level right now, but he's got bags of potential, and he proved that last season. He proved he is potentially top, Premier League quality.
Yeah.
Whether it's an Arsenal, I think that's a bit early, but it might be a Fulham or a Brentford that if they've got the money, that could come in and take him on. I mean, he might do really well in the Premier League, and I'm convinced about Mads as well. I'm convinced Mads is Premier League quality. He's got some work to... I know he had an injury last season that he was playing through that affected his... when he came back after the Tottenham game, and Jacob had a great game at Tottenham. And then Mads came back in, and everybody was going, I don't know why he's come back in. He's not... Well, he's carrying this groin injury that they were... Eventually, they decided to take him out the firing line and get sorted. So they should have probably done that a bit earlier, but... at the time, needs must, because Leicester were desperate. And but I've got a lot of confidence in Jacob to step up. I think he's a really fine young goalkeeper.
Yeah. Mr. Fox says, what sort of budget have Leicester have for a Vardy replacement? Understandable, we don't know who will be sold yet, but what is your understanding, Rob, regarding the budget?
Mr. Fox, we've got so many unknown variables about transfer budgets because we don't know what the EFL are going to do. Now, Leicester City are now officially a EFL club. They were as of, I think, 2 weeks ago. So now they're under the remit of the EFL. And we know the EFL tried to impose a business plan on Leicester 2 years ago. Very early on, based on projections of what their budget would be and how much they were going to spend. And the EFL said, right, you're going to fail PSR here. So we're going to try and restrict you and stop you by imposing a business plan. And Leicester fought it and won. Because they said, how on earth can you punish us for a projected crime? Yeah, I mean, it was that ludicrous. It was like the Minority Report. You in the future, we think you're going to commit a crime. So we're going to punish you now. Ludicrous. So, that got defeated, and quite rightly so. But now, with Leicester facing a charge from the Premier League of a PSR breach for that very season, 23-24, when they had a budget of 107 million, which is 30 million more than any of their rivals. That, as I said at the time, they were going to clearly have the biggest budget. Then, I think the EFL will think they've got justification and grounds now to impose a business plan of some sort, or a restriction or a sanction. So the Leicester City budget moving forwards is very unclear. We don't know. Leicester themselves might be struggling to understand what they can. And that's why I thought if they were going to do business, they would try and do it early before there was any restrictions put on them.
Yeah.
But so far, we've only seen departures. There's been nothing in terms of incomings. And, it's all... It just feels like everything's in limbo. Everything's on hold. The pause button has been pressed, and we don't really know where we stand. And that's why communication is so important. And we haven't had a lot of communication.
Dan talks about pre-season. Does Rob think there could be any more pre-season friendlies to be announced? I know they're going to Austria, aren't they? After the
I don't think there'll be any more in England, but I think they will probably play a couple of games when they're out on the continent. I mean, they'll probably be. There'll probably be about a couple out there just to get their legs moving again. Obviously, they're going to play a couple of games when they come back. Fiorentina's quite an exciting one at King Power Stadium, but I think that it's. And again, it all depends on the manager as well, what they want to do. But I'm sure there's going to be a couple of games in Austria.
Wilby says, we struggle to sell players that aren't stars. Does Rob think we seem to hold out for too much money for players? Turning down 10 million for Casey McAteer in January, turning down money for Daniel Everson.
And they turned down money for Thomas from Hoffenheim. Yeah, there is a number of deals that have been on the table that Leicester have not done, because they didn't meet the valuation of, John Rookin, I think, really, and top. I think there is a case for that they have held out for top dollar and not got the top dollar. I mean, I think the classic example is after the relegation last time. Oh, dear. Sorry. Germany have just scored against England 21 against 2-0. And it's... They did sort of let people, a lot of assets go for nothing in the end because they didn't meet the valuations. Now, I don't think they had as many offers as has been speculated for some of them, but there were some deals they could have done, which obviously would have meant a cut price, and they decided not to do them. So, they do hold a high valuation, and I think at the time, Leicester had a perception about themselves that they were a big asset. These guys were big assets to them, and they were a big player in the Premier League, and therefore they weren't going to take low offers. But it turned out to be, obviously all these lads left for free after relegation, so that backfired.
Fair enough. Guys, if you're enjoying this stream, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you've got any more questions for Rob, be sure to get them in. I know there's still quite a few to read. Rob, from Dan, what's happening with Jake Evans?
Oh yeah, that'll probably get done pretty quickly. He's going to sign a contract. Yeah, it's there was a deadline that Leicester had to meet for a number of those announcements, and that's why they were all at the same time. That included Jeremy Monga, but I think the Jake Evans situation was still ongoing. But I think everybody I spoke to was very confident that's going to get sorted, and he will be announced as a Leicester, signing a new deal for Leicester. So that's all really positive. I mean, that's the biggest positives of the summer so far, isn't it, Monga and some of the younger lads that have signed new deals, and because that's where they're going to have to look. They're going to have to move towards young players, and that's one of the arguments I certainly agree with. That one of the reasons why you might want to keep Rude, because he's got a proven record of developing youth at PSV. He worked with their youth for years before he stepped up to senior level. So, and they're going to have to turn to them now because of the PSR situation and the budgets and stuff. So, and there's some talent there. There really is. If you look, I mean, that's the big hope for Leicester is, the Ben Nelsons, the Will Alvarez's, the Jeremy Mongers, Jake Evans. There's some talent there. And you can't throw them all in at the same time. You've got to have some experience around them to help them, especially in the Championship, which is so tough because it's 46 games playing Saturday and Tuesday, and against physical teams that knock you about. You need to be able to stand up to it. So you need a bit of experience in there as well. But I think those young players and the academy in general should provide a lot of hope for Leicester fans.
Conor Coady, obviously, Rangers have reported to approach Leicester for him. They want to sign Conor Coady. How much can you say on Conor Coady? Is it the fact that they will now having talks with Leicester? How much truth's in
it? Well, to be honest, nobody at the club knows anything about what's happening transfer wise, because they don't even know what's happening with the manager. So it's very hard to tell what's going on with the transfers, and that's why there's been no movement at all. And I think until they resolve the managerial situation, there won't be any movement of players around. So a lot of it's just speculation, and you'll get this now at this time of year. There'll be a lot of people putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 7. So in honesty, I don't know. Now Conor is a player that I think they might consider keeping for that very reason I've just mentioned about experience and guidance for the youngsters, because that is what he's good. They've just lost the captain, Jamie Vardy. Yeah. So they need some experience in that squad to help the youngsters. He's the perfect character to have around for that. He is future managerial potential as well. So whether it all depends what Rangers offer for him as well, if that is the case. But at the moment, there's nobody making those decisions at all, because we don't know who the manager's going to be, and Rude doesn't know if he's going to be the manager next season. I know that for a fact. He doesn't know if he's going to be the manager next season.
Fair enough. Any news on how big the deduction? I know we spoke about it weeks ago, didn't we, about the points deduction?
Yeah.
Is there any more from your journalist who's quite close to them type of things?
No, we're still the same situation. We think the Premier League and the EFL will be looking at trying to make an example a little bit of Leicester, that the sanction they could face could be quite high.
Yeah.
And the mitigation, there is no mitigation because they've not complied in many ways to, like Everton and Forest did. They played along sort of thing. Leicester have challenged the Premier League and the EFL at every juncture and won on most of them. So we think if the Premier League and the EFL have got Leicester over a barrel, then this time that could be a quite high deduction. But there still has to be a boundary on this. There still has to be a regulation on what they can actually achieve. Our prediction was a starting point of 12 points, which is the same as administration. based on the fact that Everton were quite a bit over, and similar to what Leicester projected to be for 22-23, and they got 10 points, and they reduced that to 6 points on appeal. Now, Leicester probably wouldn't have any grounds for an appeal because there isn't, a we complied sort of thing. They thought. So that might be the starting point. But considering Leicester have fought them all the way, it could be a little bit higher to start with. And then we've got all the legalese going on, and Nick DeMarco playing his trump cards and stuff like that. We'll have to see, but it could be. Well, I think EFL and the Premier League will try and push for a quite significant sanction.
Rob, did you ever interact with
Milan?
Yeah, he's back in the news since yesterday about Sheffield Wednesday. Did you ever?
I tell you what, with Milan, I talk about communication and lack of communication in the current club. There was no problem. There was no problem with the lack of communication with Milan Mandaric. And in fact, I think I remember the previous press officer that was there with him used to say, if the media ring you, don't pick up. And he go, yeah, well. And then the next thing, I'll be calling him. He go, hello, Rob. And, he'd tell me everything. I can remember famously.
Yeah.
Paulo Fonseca was manager. And he was going through a rough time. And I think it was the back of the Portsmouth defeat. And I rung him up and I said, there's a lot of speculation that you're going to sack Paulo. And he went, well, Rob, no. He needs more time. He needs more time. He's only had 8 games. He needs more time. You've got to give him more time. Tell the fans, you got to give him more time. And then they went to Norwich and got beat away on the Tuesday night, and he sacked him. I rang him up. I said, Milan, you said you wanted more. You wanted to give him more time. Well, he said, I couldn't hang around. People were criticising me for not sacking Holloway earlier than I did, so I decided to pull the trigger. And he was just a maverick of an owner and a character, and a great character as well. Really interesting. Can you remember that night at Portsmouth when Leicester were getting really seriously done over?
Yeah.
And the camera cut to him, and all the Portsmouth fans were chanting his name, and he was sitting there waving at them. I thought, that's not going to look good. That's not. But he was like that. He was a nice fella to deal with, and there was no problems with communication with him. You could ring him up any time, and he'd answer and tell you what's going on.
Yeah, I remember. Was it Coady? Was it when Martin Allen was here?
Oh, that's a little bit before my time, Martin Allen.
And players behind
I have met Mad Dog a couple of times afterwards, and I find him incredibly charming guy. But I can see why he's a bit intense at times. But that was a little bit before my time. I came in when Nigel was manager the first time.
What's happening with the stadium expansion and infrastructure?
Well, that's all been on hold because of the situation over the last few years in terms of relegation, and the PSR, and the situation with King Power in terms of the finances and the impact of that pandemic. So it's still such an important project for them to pick up because, as I've said before, the only way you can escape PSR is by increasing your revenue.
Yeah.
Now, that project would dramatically increase the revenue for Leicester City because you imagine, you got your conference centre, you got your hotel, you've got your parking, you've got your retail, you got at the indoor arena. That is all revenue that's not linked to football, but it goes into the club. So that would be enormous. They could spend so much more money then on the playing side just to be able to tick those boxes. So, that would be amazing if they could do that. But at the time they announced that, and I did go down and see all the plans and did a few articles on it. It was really impressive. But Leicester were really strong at that time, and nobody predicted what happened afterwards. It was, it felt like this was a club that was only on the up, but now they're playing catch up.
Big decline.
It has been, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Rich says, why wasn't Rude ever given a full coaching staff? It seemed like a patched up band of randoms with no thinking. Also, how do you think Murphy will do at Cardiff?
First of all, I thought that was really strange when Rude came in and he didn't have a backroom team. You know, Enzo came in and he had a huge backroom team straight away from day one, and you can't do it all alone. And when Rude come in, he was doing everything. He was literally doing everything on his own. Then Jella came in and to ease the burden. But then it took ages for Brian Barry Murphy to come in, and Rude hadn't worked with Brian Barry Murphy before, didn't know him, but he took him on as under a recommendation, and then he identified that Andy King was doing well in the academy, and he thought, well, he's got something to offer me, so he appointed him as well. So he ended up with a backroom team of 4. And obviously the set piece coach as well, but it wasn't ideal, and I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't have the impact that people expected him to. If he'd come in with a backroom team that was a bit tried and tested, and somebody who was a little bit older and more experienced to help him, he might have had more of an impact as a manager. I think that was a major mistake. He needed to have a backroom team coming in.
Ben's comment about the backroom staff, with Rude's backroom staff being poached, does that mean Rude is getting the boot?
That's my article that's online now. You have to sort of assume that is coming, because if they're leaving, it's because they think he's going to go, and that's the only conclusion you can draw really from that. The optics of it, 2 of them. I mean, Brian Barry Murphy is a bit different because that was a great opportunity for him to take over at Cardiff. It's a big club, chance for him to be a manager in his own right again, because I think he'd spent a bit of time at Rochdale, and he's a very respected coach. He's got a good reputation, worked at the Man City development squad. So that's an opportunity for him, a bit like Enzo had when Leicester came calling for him. So, that wasn't a major shock. That wasn't an indication. But if Jella goes, and I suspect he is going, then that's a big sort of indication of where the direction of travel is.
When you say Rude doesn't know about his future, is that as of now rather than a couple of weeks ago?
That's the point. It will be, because, I speak to people around him. And obviously we spoke to him after the Bournemouth game, and he didn't have a clue then. And then from what I understand, he's had a family holidays, had a break, as we all need. He's recharged his batteries a little bit, but as far as up until a couple of weeks ago, he had no indication of what Leicester were thinking. Doc's been away as well, so it's all been like there's been no decisions made at all.
It seems like they've bloody been away a long time, Rob, with the decisions that haven't been made. Do you know what I mean? But that's how the fans feel, in it, with the lack of communication and everything like that. And when Rob was last on, he said if we're in charge, he would stick with Rude for stability. Has that changed now since the loss of his staff?
I just think the club needs stability.
Yeah,
I really do think they need stability, and I can't see many options around for them at the moment. So I think Rude's probably learned more from this experience at Leicester than in the rest of his career about football. And if you give him the chance to try and learn from that and try and build upon that, he needs good people around him, though. This is the thing, Sam. I mean, we talk about Nigel Pearson, and the fans love Nigel Pearson. I mean, he had a great reception at the last home game of the season when Jamie Vardy was calling time on his 13 years at the club, and his face was put on the big screen, and it was a great reception.
He didn't realise, did he?
You could tell he was absolutely chuffed. He was absolutely chuffed. But he had Shaky, he had Walshy.
Great people.
He had some really good people, and then he had Chris Powell, great guy.
Sheffield Wednesday
joined his coaching team, another great guy who had a big influence on Jamie Vardy. Really big influence. A lot of people don't underestimate the impact that he had on Jamie's development, because Jamie used to smash everything, try and break the back of the net, and Kev spent hours on the training ground, telling him to like slow down, take a breath in the last minute, at the last second before he's finished, pick a spot, watch what the keeper's doing. He spent hours working with him like that. He probably had as much of an influence on Jamie early on at Leicester than anybody. But yeah, he had some good people around him that helped Nigel, and I think he'd certainly admit that himself. And I think Rude needs that as well. He needs a mentor. He needs somebody around him that can talk to him and help him, because he looks at Bournemouth on the last day of the season. He looked like a man who thought, I'm done here. This isn't. They're going to get rid of me after this. So what's the point? He had that mannerism about him. Although he came into, I have to say, he came into the press conference afterwards and he talked about Jeremy and Jake and how they were going to sign new contracts. He was the first one to reveal that they were about to sign new contracts, and then he was talking about the future. But I don't think he really felt it as well. He sort of thought, that I think my days are up here, but we'll see. I would personally give him a little an opportunity next season, because I can't see the point in keep changing manager all the time. I really can't. It doesn't help. You're bouncing from one philosophy to another. The players don't know whether they're coming and going. They need stability. They need an identity about them. It's not great changing manager all the time. It's not a great look, and it's never brought any success for me.
Do you think the club would consider Michael Carrick?
Yeah, I think they would. He's exactly what I mentioned earlier. He's he's a young up and coming coach that's got a bit of experience now. Plays a certain brand of football that Tottenham probably would like, possession based. Yeah. I would imagine if they do make that decision on Rude, then he would probably be in the discussion in the when they have that meeting. Whoever has that meeting.
Yeah, the modern style of football, what Top wants, and Sean Dyche doesn't fit that bloody criteria, does he? He's more. Well, how do we call Sean Dyche football? Brexit ball, should we call it?
Brexit ball. No, it's. I don't know how you would describe Sean's style.
He likes the big man up top, doesn't he? Like he used to use. Like
yeah. Exactly.
Leicester used to play that way once upon a time.
Well, and effectively as well.
Steve Howard up front, or
Leonardo, big man, little man.
Yeah. Where is it, Rob? Where does Rob think we'll be in 3 years? Realistically,
wow, what a question!
That's a good question.
That is in 3 years. So much depends on the next 3 months. I would say where they're going to be in 3 years, what decisions they make, both on and off the pitch. As I've said before, I do think they need some help in there. Some fresh blood at boardroom level, senior management level, and to have an identity again, and a philosophy and a plan for building for the next 3 years. Only then, if you see those foundations, can you predict where they're going to be in 3 years' time. I really hope they're going to be back in the Premier League and doing what they've been doing over the previous 10 years. It's been an amazing ride covering Leicester for the 16 seasons I've been doing it. It's been extraordinary, but hopefully they get the decisions right.
They've got to. I think this is Top's got to now make decisions going forward. He's got
absolutely. Yeah,
big decisions have got to be made. Outgoings, ingoings, managers. The whole PSR situation is what it lays on, doesn't it? Is it the 13th of June it ends, the PSR year, and then Leicester then find out what they can do in the new PSR year with July the 1st?
June the 30th is the end of the accounting year.
Yeah.
So if they make a change of manager after that, then it's not impacted on the Steve Cooper decision. So they're not doubling up on the cost of changing the manager. I mean, changing the manager is not cheap.
No.
I mean, You've seen some clubs and they're changing manager all the time. It's never cheap unless they're offering cheap deals. But Steve Cooper wasn't cheap, and Ruud van Nistelrooy is not going to be cheap. You know, they're managers of, well, certainly Steve Cooper had history and reputation at Premier League level.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be coming for cheap. I mean, Enzo Maresca was probably, I mean, they got £10 million for him when he went to Chelsea, but they weren't paying him a huge amount because he was hungry for the opportunity. And that's what makes me believe if they decide to move on from Ruud, then they will look for a young up-and-coming coach. Just simply for that financial situation, but also the fact they're going to be hungry and really want to work. I mean, Ruud has, to be fair, he's put some work in. I mean, everybody I speak to say, like, you know, he's down the training ground at ridiculous time. He leaves at ridiculous time at night. You know, they do put the work in. It's not like, you know, the players turn up 8, 9 in the morning and then leave 1, 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, having done their main session and their gym work and had some team meetings and stuff like that. The manager, it's long hours. It really is long hours they do. And I can't. They want somebody that really wants the job.
Before we go on to Dan's message, you touch on Van Nistelrooy there.
Yeah.
Is it going to be cheaper to now depart with him, Rob, considering now we are officially a championship club?
Yeah. Now you're in the championship. Yeah, it will be you won't pay as much compensation. Yeah, because obviously, you know, he took over a Premier League club, and now you're a championship club. So you know, unless somebody's done a contract that's ridiculous, you're going to be paying less compensation because he's left them in a worse position than he took over. So that's the reality of it.
Rich goes on to say, why haven't the club communicated to the fans? Why haven't we addressed relegation fully? The only acknowledgement being we've confirmed our place in the championship. Yeah,
I know. I mean, that is a really valid criticism of the club, I think. And I have to say, you know, people in the club probably believe that they should have communicated better after relegation. But, you know, there's only a couple of people that make these decisions. So, and they decided not to. I think the philosophy at the club was when we were winning and when we were really successful, we didn't communicate. So why should we communicate now? But I think it's more, you have to communicate in bad times than good times. In good times, when you're getting all the plaudits, you can sit back and just bask in it. When things are going bad, then that's when you have to stand up and say and explain and try and convince the fans that, you know, there's still a plan. Because at the moment, I think the uncertainty is the fans are thinking, well, what is this plan? Have we got a plan? You know, it's so very surreal at the moment.
We can't keep going around in circles. I think keep Ruud, but give him the tools to work with. That's what Paul says.
Well, Enzo was given the tools. You know, I mean, he came in. You know, he was given the money to sign Connor Coady and Harry Winks. I mean, obviously, then they've gone into this PSR situation on the back of that season, 23-24. So whether that was the right decision at the time, we'll see when that all comes out in the wash. But you know, Enzo was backed, and I think if Ruud stays on, they've got to back him as well, but they've got to do it sensibly. Now you've lost your biggest wage earner. Jamie Vardy's off the books. There. He was your biggest wage earner. If you move on a couple more of them, that gives you more freedom to do a little bit more. But as I said, you've got to invest in youth now. And Ruud has got a track record for doing that.
The last question from Dan, then I was going to refer this back to you. Does Rob think he's going to get a happy birthday message on Twitter from, well, Dan's referring it to Leicester City. All they've seemed to have done, Rob, is wish everyone happy birthday. There's been nothing more from the club apart from birthday celebrations of ex-players and that. But do you reckon you're in line for the next one, Rob, when your birthday comes along?
I don't think they even know when my birthday is now.
John Rookin might buy you a cake, Rob. You never know.
Oh, no, I don't think that'll happen.
Communication will help. Siege mentality. Yeah.
I think communication would definitely help in this stage. I think fans are crying out for a bit of information. Or just even an inkling of what they're thinking. But at the moment, they don't really get anything.
Where do you think Vardy will end up?
I think he might be taken on by a Premier League club.
Okay.
One of the newly promoted clubs, maybe. Or, as I've said before, Celtic. Brendan loves him. Casper's there enjoying himself. Champions League football. Could be an interesting proposition for him.
Rob, appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
I know it's getting quite warm in it. So I know your fans been going off throughout the show. Your curtains have moved and that, So
no, I've got the England Germany under 21 game on. That's why it keeps flashing. I've got the England under 21 game on.
But no, I appreciate you coming on again, Rob. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you on again soon when more stuff comes out. But
hopefully there'll be some news by then.
Really appreciate it. But what's coming up on The Athletic?
I've got a piece coming up on the loans, the players that come returning from loan, who could be featuring on that. I've got the piece that ran early this week on Rude's situation, and then we'll have to see what happens after that.
Appreciate it. Cheers, Rob.
A bit of cricket as well.
Oh,
cricket.
Fantastic.
I know.
It's not my cup of tea, Rob, but if it is for you, you might turn out to be a cricket player one day. Who knows?
Yeah,
But cheers, Rob. Appreciate it, mate. Take care. That's Rob Tanner. Tanner works for the Final Whistle. It's established now. Well, I don't think I'd pay him enough to bloody get him to work for me, Ross, to be fair. I think he gets paid more at The Athletic. I'm not going to double his wages, let's be honest. Cheers, Paul. Appreciate it, mate. Guys, if you've enjoyed this stream, hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. It'll help me out massively. Really hope you've enjoyed the stream, the chat with Rob Tanner. Hope he's answered everything you guys have put at him tonight. And go and check out the interview with Richie Wellens, what I did on Xbox in the Box. Hopefully we can have a few more Leicester City players joining me on Xbox in the Box very soon. But really hope you've enjoyed it. Cheers, Jack. Great stream, Jack. Appreciate that, mate, as always. Take care. Have a great rest of the evening, whatever you're up to. Keep it at the Final Whistle. See you soon.